Good morning. I'm Dan Rodriguez, Executive Director of Merrick Community Services. Typically, I would be very excited to be welcoming you to this breakfast, standing at the door, smiling and shaking your hand. Typically, I would be getting some energy from the room filling up, the smell of a tasty breakfast being served, and the warmth of conversation that comes from gathering together with a purpose. And typically, I would be ready to ask you to generously support Merrick's good work on the east side of St. Paul and in our neighboring communities. As is obvious to all of us, there is nothing typical about this moment. A global health pandemic is robbing us of the physical closeness that is essential to building community and being human. The killing of George Floyd, right here in the Twin Cities, has cracked open our hearts. The confluence of the two, accompanied by a serious economic downturn, has us now staring straight into the inequities we face by race, class, gender, and ethnicity. Addressing those inequities is precisely the work that Merrick has been doing for over 112 years. So while my smile is diminished, and I cannot feel the buzz of us all gathering physically together in one space, I can still invite you to learn a little bit about what Merrick is doing right now, and we will still ask you to generously support our work. But I will leave that to our board chair and my colleague, Ruth Anderson. For now, I want to thank you for being here and encourage you to get comfortable at your desk or breakfast table as we begin our program. Starting with a short video about family services, which, as you will see, are adapting to the ever-changing needs of our families as the pandemic progresses.
So Merrick Family Services is a program that provides a holistic approach to services for families and individuals. Right now, our largest population of individuals we serve are single mothers, but we also get single fathers in as well. So what we do is leverage the relationship in the community so that they can get connected to resources outside of Merrick if we can't provide them. And they may need rental assistance, utility assistance, basic needs, transportation assistance, clothing, and things of that nature. Families who actually come from being homeless and then we get them into housing, or they don't. We go into the house and they come in for a bridging referral and there's nothing in the house. One of the families, I remember, one of the case managers came back and she said, "Oh my gosh, Diamond, all she has is a TV. They're sleeping on the floor." Hardwood floors, right? And bridging can take a week or 2 weeks to even get families in. So we had to go buy air mattresses just so they can have somewhere to sleep. But it's them knowing that in 2 weeks they'll have furniture. And then we get them set up, we get the furniture delivered, and then we get a picture of, "Oh my gosh, thank you. I got furniture in my house. My kids aren't sleeping on the floor." And so I think that's where we really see the impact in families' lives. A lot of our families come back and they thank us for what we do. And that's the part I love. One of the biggest things that I think that we need internally is more mental health and behavioral health services. With COVID, we have a lot of families right now that are having a lot of issues with depression and anxiety. They're having to deal with being a teacher at home, and some families the parent may not have even graduated from high school themselves, or they had some struggles in high school. And so just being supportive, just being that crutch for a lot of families is going to be really beneficial. There's a variety of things we need help with. The biggest way people can support family services and what we do, it can be donating your time, donating resources to be able to provide supportive services dollars to individuals who are going to work and they can't get to work because they don't have gas, or we provide daycare assistance to individuals who've been on Ramsey County's list to get child care assistance for a year and they can't work because they need some assistance with paying paying for childcare, the financial literacy, the housing 101. There's a cost to all of those. Staff being trained and equipped to deal with the constant changes in the community regarding mental health services. We have a family right now who's homeless. The mom ended up finding somewhere for the children to stay, and so in turn we had to find somewhere for the mom to stay. She was sleeping in her car. The mom was at loss. She didn't want to be separated from her kids, but she had no choice. She would rather her children have somewhere, a bed to sleep in, than to have them sleeping in the car. And thankfully, through the partnership with Suburban Ramsey, we have supportive dollars that come with that program. So I was able to put this family in a motel for 3 weeks where she can be with her children because her and the kids were separated. And then she'll be moving in her house on June 1st. But if it wasn't for that partnership where we were able to provide the supportive dollars, and then we had Solid Grounds, Housing Navigator, looking for housing, finding housing, making sure that documentation was there, this family would have been potentially sleeping in their car until we were able to get her situated. And once she's in stable housing, we will also make sure she has all the basic needs she needs just to get started. And it's a long road from here, but for the most part, we, working together as a partnership, using our partners with those supportive dollars, I think will help this family go from instability to stability. I always say that no matter what you come through the door with, my job is to help you solve that or figure it out. It's okay. We're going to get through this together. That is my main push, and I'll go above and beyond to just make sure families have that. So I think what they get from family services is hope.
Hello, I'm Ruth Anderson. I am the newly elected board chair of Merrick Community Services, and I'm grateful to be joined by all of you today. I've served on Merrick's board for 6 years, and listening to Diamond speak about the holistic approach to family services, I am reminded that Merrick is more than a community nonprofit. Our legacy in this community spans over 100 years. Beyond the individual services we provide, we are seen as a beacon of hope for our most vulnerable neighbors, a hand outstretched to lift them up when no one else can or will. Here at Merrick, we aren't just providing links to housing and community partners for families in need. In fact, we are very intentional about the suite of services we provide, which intersect major areas of our participants' lives, from food to employment. We provide the guidance, stewardship, and nourishment necessary for our neighbors to overcome obstacles that keep them from living full, prosperous, and healthy lives. I've been lucky to have spent my entire career working within one industry and for one company. COVID-19 has me thinking about those on the East Side who, like me, have dedicated their lives to one industry and one career, only to have it taken away at a moment's notice. I think about those who depend on the library to fill out employment applications that have nowhere to turn to apply for jobs for the foreseeable future. I think about the single mothers who have been furloughed and who are already stretched so thin managing their children's education and putting food on the table. Merrick is here and stretching out our hand to offer our support, as you will see in this next video about our career services.
Merrick's Career Services have actually been a part of Merrick's services for a long, long time. We help hundreds of people every year for usually 2 reasons. One is to either start a new career path, or they're in need of finding work because they're out of work at the time being. These are hardworking individuals. They come in wanting a new career. They want to launch into a new path. We don't even have to convince them usually of the benefits of what they're stepping into. And once we do lend just a little bit of assistance to overcome some of those initial fears, they're able, for the first time in a lot of cases, to actually be able to sustain a career path, see those wages start growing over long term. The actual pride that they take on those new ventures that they set out in is very crucial. And what we do see a lot of times is just the return appreciation to our department and everything that Merrick provides. It's tremendously welcoming for a lot of those workers. I would say one difference that we've had had since the COVID virus has begun is that we don't nearly have as much walk-in services as we had in the past. They're not sure if we're open. We don't have the same operating hours as we had prior to COVID. Unfortunately, we've had a lot of training programs, those 4 to 6 week specialized training programs in different trades. Those things have been canceled, obviously, due to the virus. And so these are opportunities that in the past can help sometimes 50 to 100 workers each year that unfortunately just haven't been able to take place this year. One of the things that we're really preparing for at Merrick's Employment Services Department with the COVID virus is that we're going to have a new wave of hardworking individuals that do need support, sometimes for the first time. These are skilled workers who are going to be out of work, are going to be unemployed, and the workforce is going to be dramatically affected. So we will not only start seeing, I believe, a lot of our entry-level position workers or those just out of college, just out of high school, but we are also going to have mid to high-level educated and experienced workers coming in and are needing to start a new career path for the first time. They're going to be in a situation where maybe their past employers haven't been able to start or rehire them after being laid off or having to be let go, and are really going to rely on the support that Merrick's Employment Services Department has been able to provide for all our workers. And that's important that everyone realizes we need the support and financing for that larger wave that is going to be coming, I would say, in the next few months and really continue on forward. And it's a great opportunity to really introduce everything Merrick offers. State offices, local offices, other corporation partners do provide a lot of funding and resources to the Employment Services Department. A lot of those public funding costs are going to specific community members or specific training programs, but we really wouldn't be able to take advantage of those donations if they weren't coming from a lot of individuals for simply our operating costs to have the workers to actually provide and roll out all of the employment services efforts. Another operating cost is working with trainers, outside vendors and trainers that actually can provide the specialized services that we are offering. Support services is another operating cost that is essential. We wouldn't be able to take advantage of those offers that we offer our participants unless those donations actually were rolling in. And without them, I honestly don't think we'd be able to provide for the families and say, do you know that these opportunities are available? Come and let us help you get into these careers. And it's very enjoyable for Merrick staff to watch those progressions happen, the success, everything from not even just the financial success, but the confidence that those workers have when they see that progress taking place.
Good morning, everybody. Hey, cheers. Just think of all the awkward silences and table conversations you're missing this morning. Don't worry, next year we're going to bring them back. But in the meantime, really appreciate you joining us for this virtual breakfast. And thanks to Brant for putting the spotlight on on what it takes to manage our programs. You know, one of the things that sometimes get lost in numbers are people. It's easy to say that St. Paul's unemployment rate in April went from 3% previous to April up to 10%. But if you really bring this down to the east side, we have about 18,000 unemployed working age adults in the neighborhoods that Merrick serves. You know, that's in a geographic area of a bit more than 60,000 people. So when you say 10% in St. Paul for the east side, you're talking about an unemployment rate that really is starting to push upwards between 25 and 30%. And in the coming months, we anticipate as many as 40,000 unemployed adults may be looking for work. That's just not on the east side, but when you think about who's providing those programs to bring those people back into the workforce, upgrading those skills, it's organizations like Merrick who are on the front lines providing those services. In addition, you know, when we talk about our food shelf and food insecurity, that actually becomes a lagging indicator. You know, people lose their jobs and then they lose their access to food. Over the past year, our food shelf demand in Minnesota hit a record high, growing from 3% in 2018 and 19 up to, at the beginning of the pandemic, surpassing 15%. And, in typical times on average, America will connect with and serve a little more than 200 people in 1 week. In the first days of sheltering in place in March, we fielded a remarkable 230 calls just in the first 3 days. These are real people, not just numbers. And it's one of the reasons why we're bringing everybody today to have this conversation, because the need is only growing, and only with your support can we actually serve that need. Here to talk more about it is Josh Bao, our food shelf manager, easy for me to say. And then Larissa is also going to talk about our Meals on Wheels program.
Eastside's been an immigrant neighborhood. My grandma grew up here as an immigrant child. My folks grew up here, so my mom's from the East Side. So I know a lot of the folks who come to the food shelf. It is gratifying to serve the community in such a simple way. The food shelf mostly operates like an independent grocery store that just happens to be free for the community. People are able to come in, they're able to go through and choose the items they want. On a typical day at Merrick, we'd anticipate serving around 50 households, which is a significant amount of people, so about 200 families a week. It's not just that it's a food shelf and it's free food. We want people to have access to nutritious and healthy food as well. So we're very produce heavy. We try to get as much low sodium, non-canned, non-boxed, non-pre-made meals, but meals people can actually enjoy at home. We're trying to see what our neighborhood actually wants and actually needs, and not just try to force ourselves into a certain particular mold. So Eastside being such a diverse neighborhood, we try to get culturally specific foods, so people keep coming every month, and they know that we're going to be here for them. All of the new challenges we're facing with COVID-19, we've had to dramatically change how we do service. So we've moved to a curbside pickup model. We're trying to give our participants as much choice as possible, with also trying to enforce social distancing and limiting social contact, and even volunteers. I mean, not being able to have that many folks around, so that there's less people doing the work, but the work is still necessary. It still needs to be done. Merrick could expand if we had more donations and we could add more staff. For other food shelves, typically have a much larger staff than we have. We have 2 staff members for our food shelf. If we could have, even expand to twice that, I mean, there's a lot more we could do. The food shelf I came from had 4 times the amount of budget that Merrick serves, but served about half as many people as Merrick serves. So I've learned how to get more food with far less resources. So it would be, an increase in funding would change things dramatically here. Food brings people together in a way that very few things can, and it will never stop being an important part of any sort of family life, especially when we get back to a little bit more normal life and kind of people back together again. That's probably the most gratifying thing about being able to do this sort of work, is not doing it for ulterior reasons, but just giving people food because they need it, and hopefully giving them healthy food that will help them along their journey.
Merrick's Meals on Wheels program serves East St. Paul, South Maplewood, and Woodbury. Meals on Wheels provides a lot to families in need in this area. We're here to help families who need help taking care of their senior parents. We're here to help people who can't take care of themselves and just need that extra someone in their life to lean on. We also serve a lot of low-income people, anyone who's in need in the community. So everyone gets a meal, a beverage, and 2 sides for that day. We have 10 routes that go out 5 days a week, and we have over 134 volunteers that take on routes throughout the month. A lot of people do the same routes the same days of the week, so they pretty much know who's on their route and where to go. They have it down pat. Since COVID-19, the process for delivering Meals on Wheels has changed greatly. We used to deliver 5 days a week, but now we only deliver 2 days a week. Everyone still gets a hot meal on those days, but then they have frozen meals that they can either heat up in their own oven or microwave to supplement the days we're no longer delivering. And then at the actual handoff of the meal, we practice social distancing. So the volunteers, they're wearing a mask and they sanitize their hands before they deliver. And they'll put the meals all in a plastic bag, hang it on the door handle or a side table by the person's door. And they'll knock and step back 6 feet and make sure they get that contact still to make sure the person's okay. Or they'll call them on the phone if they don't want to answer the door and just have contact that way to make sure that they know the food is there and they can grab it and that they're okay. There really is a benefit for the recipient having someone come to their house every day, have a chat with them, check in on them. If someone is immobile in their home, they can't leave and they can't cook for themselves, it's really, really beneficial to their health and their overall well-being to have that person come say hi and make sure they're doing okay. A lot of feedback that I get from the children of my clients is they are very grateful that we're able to provide this service to their parents, keep them in their houses longer, help them, recover from surgeries they've had. And then the clients themselves are also really grateful. I love hearing from them. They call me and say, I don't like this meal that we're having. We send out a menu every month. And so if they don't want a certain meal on a certain day, I accommodate that. They also get really excited when we do have certain meals certain days. So I get a lot of phone calls right before spring of people asking, when are the fresh salads coming back? When are we having fresh salads? And so that was really exciting being able to start getting those in here in May. Funding for Meals on Wheels is really important. It's used to help subsidize the sliding scale fee that we have through Ramsey County. With additional funding, that means that we have more in our budget to help more people. Our vision for the Merrick Meals on Wheels program is to serve way more people in the community than we're doing now. We definitely need to get our numbers up, and additional funding can help that a lot because it can go to outreach in the community, and it also will help us, order the meals that we send out every day.
So I came across a quote the other day from Brené Brown, which, as I say that out loud, I realize is probably one of the more white things you could probably say. But with that said, it was a great quote. Empathy is feeling with people. It's a choice. It's a vulnerable choice. And the reason why I spotlight that is, especially over the past 3 weeks, I think seeing the world through other people's eyes has really been shocking to a certain extent, but it's also been a little bit enlightening. Well, I shouldn't say a little bit, probably a lot. And with that said, it takes a lot for somebody to say they need help. And think about it at our own jobs, how much a lot of us actually either avoid or refuse to ask for help. For someone to come in for the first time to the food shelf, the first time in their life and ask for food, what does that mean? The nice thing is for Merrick is that we provide the 360-degree services. So we're not just trying to nourish the body, we're also trying to nourish the mind. We're also trying to elevate the skills level so that people find dignity in who they are and what they do and how they can live. We're pulling together all of our program managers here, the people that you saw on the videos, to talk a little bit about that. And we'll begin with Josh Bao, manager of our food shelf services. The term food insecurity probably has permeated some of our lexicons, but in addition to that, we've applied that term really to students. Thinking about how kids going to school hungry just kids really are not in a physical state to learn. It affects their cognitive abilities. The question I want to bring to Josh is, how does that also apply to adults? What does it take to admit that you have food insecurity, but also what does that do to your ability to function in a way that most of us here at the breakfast today probably take for granted?
It forces people to do things that they otherwise wouldn't do. So it forces people to have to choose between a safe place to live and their health, the kind of foods they're able to eat. They're forced to sacrifice healthy choices in those areas for what they can afford. And it's a very tangible problem that unveils the systemic inequities in communities of color like the East Side, and the very real injustices that we at Merrick try to work towards fixing every day. It just takes away that choice and that freedom to choose.
Larissa, the video you spotlighted for the Meals on Wheels program that you manage, you talked about the connections that people make, especially during the pandemic. Well, when we're not in a pandemic, social isolation is a real issue for the people that we serve on Meals on Wheels. How has the pandemic exacerbated that issue? And more to the point, when we think of Meals on Wheels, a lot of people put the focus on the meals. But what does it mean for the people who receive those meals to have that human connection? What does it do for them, for their health and wellness?
Yeah, when a senior signs up for Meals on Wheels, they get more than just a hot, healthy meal delivered to them 5 days a week. They get that friend who does the same route multiple times a week or once a month and, checks in on them, says hello, knows their name, and they just have that person to lean on that they trust and are familiar with. And it really helps their physical and mental health to have someone like that in their life.
Brant, the job training program. Everyone's heard how schools, and in fact, if you're a parent, you know how difficult it's been to try to continue education. Obviously, trying to maintain that program through a time when we couldn't pull people together, especially for the hands-on training, has probably been quite an obstacle. How are we going to move forward providing that training? And more to the point, building a little bit off of Larissa's comments about the social benefits of the programs that we provide. What does it mean for the students who come to our programs to have peers together to support them through their training?
It's a great question, actually, James. I would say it's one of the most beneficial parts for workers and participants to come in and realize they're not alone in all of these hardships, right? Whether it be starting a new career path, maybe recognizing to themselves that they need a new start, and to come in and see the masses that are witnessing and taking, on the same challenges. So it's very gratifying just to see so many of those workers say, I am going to make this new start. I can overcome those challenges with just a little bit of support from Merrick, and really introduce them to some of the things that they weren't even aware of. Maybe different customized training programs, different opportunities that they weren't even aware of. And it's very gratifying to see those challenges and their confidence grow, really their smiles grow at the same time, and then witness them actually even be able to start careers that they didn't even plan on in the first place. And that only really comes from those customized training programs and the mutual strength and relationships that they actually do take on as they go forward. And they have a great community effort, and they're very happy with each other and give that strength to one another to see that progress happen each and every time.
Diamond, bringing it home to you, we kind of started this conversation about, how difficult it is to ask for help, because it does make you vulnerable. It does make, it shows where the challenges are within your own self. For the family counseling program, it's a lot of people think of nonprofits and direct services. We provide the job training, we provide direct meals, we provide access to food. Why why family counseling? And why does it matter that Merrick provides this service in addition to all of our other services?
I think for the most part, there's a norm, or there's been stigma around asking for help, right? And so my biggest push is like, it's okay to not be okay. And so that counseling piece comes from, we want you to come in and have that conversation. A lot of times when families come to us, we're that first point of contact, and we're that first listening. We're that first person to actually listen to them and actually give them a voice and allow them that perspective to be able to say, I need help, without any judgment, without feeling bad about themselves. And so I know I can speak for myself. When I first came, me being a program manager, I came into Merrick as a participant initially. And so I needed someone to tell me it is okay to come in and ask for help. And I came in, asked for help, got an internship, and here I am. And people may say, oh, you're living your dream. Oh yeah, this is my dream. First generation college graduate. My family looks up to me. My children look up to me. But it was my previous supervisor at the time telling me that it is okay. I am here to listen to you. I've never been to counseling before. A lot of the times it's frowned upon to even ask for help. As a woman, you're supposed to be strong, or as individuals, we're supposed to be strong and be able to know how to get through it, I should say. And so coming to Merrick, that's why I ended my video you seen with hope. I think that's what Merrick gave me, right? And so that's what I continue to give to any participant that walks through the door, is hope and an opportunity to have your version of a better life, if that's what you want, and so, yeah.
Thanks. I know it's not always easy to share our own personal stories, but I personally appreciate that. Again, kind of bringing it full circle, that ability to bring empathy to what we do and why we're involved. Thank you all. It's not enough to say that you're on the front lines providing some needed services. But I know as a resident on the East Side, I appreciate what you bring to it, because, everybody who's in need are my neighbors as well. So it's important, for me personally, but as a community, I think St. Paul as a whole benefits because of what you're doing for the East Side of St. Paul. So thank you very much. I'm going to throw it back to our board chair, Ruth, who is going to start wrapping this up for us. Thanks everybody for tuning in, watching the videos, listening, and Ruth, take it away.
And go ahead.
Thank you to Merrick staff for taking the time to shed more light on our programs. As you can see, COVID-19 has catapulted the inequalities impacting our communities to the forefront of our lives. And we know that for some, the economic and emotional toll will be long-lasting. Racial injustices are adding an extra sting to an already painful wound. But this isn't the first time our country has seen this kind of strife and community grief, and it's not the first time Merrick has shepherded our neighbors through tough times. With your financial support, we aim to raise $60,000 to support our programs. Your generous gift today will be doubled by the Schultz Family Foundation. All you need to do is click the link in the comment box. Your gift secures our ability to extend a lifetime that can shift a lifetime of challenges to a lifetime of stability and independence. Thank you.
While you take a moment to make a gift, I'd like to thank our sponsors: 3M, Agribank, Assured Partners, Bremer Bank, Richard M. Schultz Family Foundation, Slawick Properties, the Vomela Companies, and Sunstream. I'd also like to thank Ruth Anderson, our program managers, and James Lockwood for their part in making today a success. You can expect to receive more information from Merrick to close out our fundraising campaign by the end of the month. We encourage you all to follow Merrick on Facebook and LinkedIn for updates on our COVID-19 response and the work we are doing in the community. If you have questions or would like to volunteer, you can mail us at info@merrickcs.org. I want to thank you all again for joining us this morning, and have a wonderful day.